Bob, and I mean that very sincerely. We met by accident. We became roommates based on somebody's decision that we should live together. And it's just one of those things where I thought, we were just super simpatico right away on a lot of levels and got on very, very well. And we had a lot in common. Um, we both, for example, labored under the misimpression that we were in Vienna to study and get good grades. So I really, looking back, have no idea how that idea entered our head, but we would night after night sit in our little common area in our apartment in the second district with our very engaging and entertaining landlady and try to figure out what Schnitzler really meant by some line in a play or how to conjugate some mental verb like Zweckenfremden in German properly. And then we would spend a lot of time wondering what everybody else was doing down at the Schwarze Spanier at Wunderbar. They were out having fun and we were cracking the books. And looking back 40 years later, I can say that we probably both made just a terrible mistake, especially when I've seen how well so many of my classmates have stayed connected through the years, which really took some doing in the years without email or cell phones or social media. But that was clearly based on the more proper use of their time, which was used to get to know each other very deeply and have a lot of fun together. But Bob and I reconnected thanks to Jennifer about a month ago, and after having lost touch for 40 years, and we've been ping-ponging emails back and forth almost daily, and he's really set free a lot of memories for me, for which I'm very grateful. Because through these last 4 decades, a lot of those experiences of my Vienna fall, and I was only there 1 semester, they were just kind of crammed into an old box and stuck in my back of my mental closet as other life experiences took over. And in Bob's emails, his recollections have been vividly detailed, really insightful, very comprehensive, and all of the characters from our class that he remembered, and just impressively abundant and funny. And I can honestly say his mental cup really doth runneth over with things I had thought I'd long forgotten, and they're front and center in his memory box. And so I'm sure this is just going to be a great event for everybody who had a chance to spend time in Vienna through the years, and he'll bring those times back to life for you like he has for me. So Bob, thank you very much for what you've done for me personally. The show is yours.
Thanks very much. With that said, I should just sign off. That was better than the presentation you're going to hear from now on. So anyway, to everyone, Servus, grüß euch. I'm sure you remember that, the greetings from Vienna. And ich möchte euch danken, dass ihr heute Abend an dieser Diskussion teilnehmt. Hast du das verstanden? Yeah, okay, that's all for my German today. Anyway, I'll go back to Japanese, no, to English. And by the way, I should tell you that I am in Japan, and that's why I've shut my blind here. It's morning, and I've been here for 26 years. More than half, well, no, not more than half my life. Sorry, I've been here more than 26 years. I've been here 30 years already, more than half my life. And including the Vienna years, I've spent only 4 or 5 in the United States as an adult. So I thank IES for instilling that spirit in me for living abroad. I'd like to thank Tom for taking this, taking the duty on as MC, and for that wonderful introduction. I'd like to thank all of you, the ones from 1980-81. I'd like to thank you, and the 84-85 for those of you who knew me in 80-81 and knew me as a gargantuan eater. Remember, I was in the Gasthaus Schmidt Drei Gordon Bleu event where I tried to eat 3 of those, and there were lots of bets on both sides. You will be pleased to know that I was 83 kilograms, as Marty Plank can attest to. I hope he's here today. He was my coach for that event, 83 kilograms. And I had my annual physical about a month ago, and I weighed in at 80.8. So I've kept my weight more or less the same. In addition to being a big eater, I am a big walker. And that's what this presentation is all about today, hiking the Vienna woods. I will also tell you, the 80-81 people, that I went back to Vienna, 84-85, and I served in Kevin Moon's and James's position as student assistant there. And I was there for another year. And I will show you the house I lived in shortly. Before we get into the talk today, I want to whet your memories a little bit, or again, stimulate them a bit by showing you, by giving you a quiz. So let's go to the quiz. And I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that?
No.
Not
No.
yet.
Okay,
Not
let
yet.
me go back on and let me hit this share button. Okay, this should be it. Okay, and there you have it. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, and number one, see what you get for an answer here. The Vienna Woods is called in German Der Wienerwald, Die Wienerwald. You can see my Austrian accent stuck. Das Wienerwald, Dilo Wienerwald. Tom, which one would you choose? Okay, that was good. Probably mic's off. Your answer should be A. And for those of you, C was the chicken restaurant, Das Wienerwald, which used that article Das. I have no idea why they did that. And Dillo Wienerwald is in there for 1980-81 people to remember Mike Dillo, who was a colorful character, as you probably remember. Okay, let me move along here to number two. One of the main reasons that the Vienna Woods remains one of Europe's most untrammeled swaths of nature is thanks to, which one? A, Dr. Karl Lueger, B, Dr. Karl Renner, C, Dr. Karl Marx, and D, Dr. Karl Malone. You quickly eliminate D, realizing that Karl Malone, nicknamed the Iceman, was the center for the Utah Jazz in the late 1990s. I don't think he's a doctor either. I put him in there as a bogus distractor. Karl Marx was a doctor. You don't usually see that title affixed to his name. And then the other two you'll remember if you rode the Straßenbahn regularly. They always came to Ringstrasse, Karl Lueger Ring, and Karl Renner Ring. The answer would be A, and that would be because in 1905, as mayor of Vienna, he decreed the Wienerwald protected, and he wanted a green area to remain. And what foresight, it has remained, although Karl Lueger in 2012, his name was taken off the Ringstrasse. You can probably guess why. It was for anti-Semitism, and he was removed for that reason. And now it's become Universitätsringstrasse, I think. Somebody could probably enlighten me on that. Okay, let me try to scroll down here and see if I can get to number three's hiding behind this black box. I'm not very technically adept, as you can see. That's because I've stayed in a university my entire life. Another person we have to thank for the enduring beauty and very existence of the woods is, and I'm sorry, again, you see my lack of technical prowess here. I could not find how to put the umlaut on Schüffel. That's Josef Schüffel, B, Joseph Stalin, C, Joseph Cotton, and D, Joseph Bratfisch. The answer you should have chosen was A, Josef Schüffel in 1870 to 1873 or so. He was responsible for combating the logging industry from tearing down all the trees in the Vienna woods. They wanted to get at the lumber, at the timber, to pay for a lost war. So that's what it was supposed to be for. Joseph Cotton, of course, you might remember from the movie The Third Man. He played Holly Martins. And D, Josef Bratfisch, he was the fiaker driver for Crown Prince Rudolph, who you probably remember, 1889, he committed suicide in Meierling. Mystery that's never been solved. Many people think he was murdered. Okay, number four, at a Heurige or a Heugen, whichever one you want to use, which of the following signs denotes that the establishment is open for business? I gave you five here on Tom's suggestion. A, habe die Ehre. B, Eintritt verboten. C, ausgesteckt. D, bitte das Gras nicht betreten. Und E, Fahrschein bitte. You're probably all cringing at E, You'll all remember that from the streetcars. If you were a Schwarzfahrer and you were afraid the controller would come to you. Actually, in my second year, I met the controller 3 times. 1980, 81, never saw them. The answer is C, ausgesteckt, and this comes from the branch, the fir branch that's supposed to be placed outside a Heurige, and it's supposed to show that it's open for business, and that means sticking out. It's a Viennese term. I asked the guy from Germany to check that, and he said to me, "I've never heard it in my life." Number 5, Vienna is #1 in the world among metropoles worldwide for having A, the most cheerful people. I know nobody's going to choose that one. B, the largest number of hectares of vineyards. C, the tallest skyscrapers. And D, uncountable ethnic restaurants. Remember when I was there, I think there was a Chinese restaurant and an Indian restaurant. That was about it. So you limit it to B and C, and it's definitely not C. So you have Vienna as, within the city limits, the largest number of vineyards in the world. And that says something about the good wine you can find there. And although I didn't drink it when I was a student. Number 6, what event occurred in 1842 of significance to the Vienna Woods? And you should choose D. Again, this will tell you that the Vienna Woods is a very safe place to hike. There are no bears. There haven't been since 1842. No wolves either. Actually, nothing dangerous. Although Lonnie Johnson did tell us to watch out for ticks, if you'll remember. I've never had a problem with those. But then again, I don't really hike in the summer too much. I took my daughter up there one summer, but we didn't have any problems. Number 7, a visitor to the Hellenental, which is going to be hike number 3 I'll introduce today, remarked, "I would like to live here after I retire." The person who said that was A, Adolf Hitler, B, Dag Hammarskjöld, C, Napoleon Bonaparte, and D, I can't read. It's hidden under the black part, but it's not the answer. Yeah, you should have chosen C, the irony being that he lived on St. Helena, the island, rather than St. Helena, the valley, which is the one down near Baden, in case you don't know. Okay, I'm going to click this off, and I'm going to go to the PowerPoint now. Again, please save your questions and comments for the chat column, and any reflections you'd have, I'd love to read them. Okay, now I'm going to open up the PowerPoint if I can. Again, I can't believe I'm doing this so well. I think I'm doing it reasonably well. All right, here we go, and stretch that out. And camera and share. Okay, where's that? Oh, there we go. Okay, now can you all see that?
We can see it.
Okay, great. Let me stretch it out all the way here. And all right, there you've got a city. I just wanted to tell you that we were over here, 1980, 81, 84, 85, we were over here in another Palais Corbeli. And this was the Palais Kinski over here. They were both great palaces. I couldn't choose one over the other. What we're going to be talking about today is the area way out here in the 21st district first. That's the Biesenberg. And the 21st district was also home to Strebersdorf and Stammersdorf. So let me show you a bit of that. Here,
Rob, do you want to hit slideshow so you can hit play and then the pictures will be bigger?
Sure.
Remember the icon?
The second slide, I'm just curious.
That's the second slide, or you can start at the first and then just kind of go through.
Okay, hold on. Slideshow.
Do you see the icon that's up top that has like the arrow on it?
Okay, I think I got it. No, wait.
Keep on going to the right. It has like that.
Oh, yes. Slideshow. Sorry about this. Right here, right? No, that's not it. Down here.
Yes, that's it, I think. I think you're... No,
I did it?
It's the one that has like the screen icon. It has the...
Slideshow, here it is. It's in Japanese, sorry. Okay, got it. I clicked it.
No, it's the one at the top, very top of the screen, and it has a little screen with a right arrow and a circle around it.
There you go.
There you go.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, good.
There we go. Perfect.
Okay, we're going out to the 21st district, which is out that way, past the 2nd district, past the canal, and on to over the other side of the Danube. Okay, here is the Vienna Woods. That's actually doesn't look so big. It's huge. If you imagine that was all protected in 1905. And the area we're first talking about is over here. This is where I lived. And I will show you slum housing that IES put me in. Okay, by the way, if you are going hiking in the Vienna woods, you want to buy one of these. It's a 2-part map set, and it will show you every little detail. It's great to have. I use it every time I hike, and I can't tell you how many times I've hiked. Well, before we get to my house, there's the Breakfast of Champions. You probably didn't eat like this when you were students because you didn't have the money. This is a Tiroler Hof Cafe, which is right across from Sacker's Hotel. And this was at the urging of my friend Al. I usually hike alone, but he came with me, took most of the pictures. Al, thank you. If you're here, if you're not, I'll thank you later. And he wanted to eat all this day after day. This is what we ate before we went hiking every day. Yeah, that does look good, doesn't it? Okay, I don't know what happened to the picture of my house, but anyway, here is Langenzersdorf. And this is where you would go on the Schnellbahn. And if those of you who are in Vienna remember the Schnellbahn being very schnell, it's not very schnell any longer, and it's actually often late. But do you take this one outside of Vienna, you have to pay for one extra station, and this will take you to the base of the Biesenberg. There's also a terrific pond you can swim at free of charge here, a freshwater pond. I took my daughter there every day when I stayed there. You can also opt for using your Netzkarte, the pass, and you can go to the last station in Strebersdorf, which is where I used to go when I lived there. And this is the old Straßenbahn, and there's the Schnellbahnstation for Strebersdorf. And then you can walk up through the suburbs. It'll take you about 45 minutes. Just look for the hills and keep going in that direction, and you will get there. Take back streets too. And there's the house I lived in. I said slum IES housing. This was a terrific house, and it had a lot of trees in the back and a garden. And going out of that station I showed you, Langenzersdorf, you will come across the town. You'll cross the main thoroughfare, and then you'll come to a church called the Magdalenerhof Kirche. That's this one. And then you will go up Magdalenerhofstrasse. And you just follow this. There'll be a red sign on it. They mark their trails very well. You follow the red all the way up to Magdalenerhof Cafe. Everything's Magdalenerhof there. And this is a great cafe to stop at. It's still early. Just have a coffee here because it may be too early for lunch. And when you start hiking, you'll get, again, I'll just show you where you are. You're over here now, if you can see my pointer. You'll be over here. Langenzersdorf is right there, and the Biesenberg is here. So you're hiking in this area across from Leopoldsberg. Okay, and this is what it'll look like. You can see Leopoldsberg over there. The hike is very easy. You can do this in an afternoon, by the way, easily. 4 hours tops. The paths look like this. They lead to the westernmost summit, which will be, and you pass this, by the way. It's rarely open. It's called the Gameshohe. And if you pass this, this is a terrific place to eat, drink, just have a beer. There's the Goose sign, you'll remember. They do have many different beers these days, better beers than the ones you used to drink. I used to drink Schweckather. It's kind of like drinking Miller High Life. Okay, and here's the Elisabethhohe. And from here, you can see the Danube, and you can see the hills behind Kloster Neuburg. It's utterly beautiful. And to the north, you'll see the Burg Kreuzenstein, which is right here. And that's going to be hike number 4 that I'll explain later. You go up to Kreuzenstein from here, you walk up, you visit the castle, then you keep going up to these hills, and over you go, and you will get spectacular views there. That's an all-day hike. You wind up in Stockerau. For those of you who took the train out to the 21st district, you probably never went to Stockerau, but it's walkable. This is one of the streets you'll come down on the way to Stammersdorf. And that's what you'll see. And then Stammersdorf, sorry, I ripped this picture off because I didn't have one, but I have a better one coming. This is one that Al took. This is downtown Stammersdorf. It's quite a pretty town, and it's a Heilige town. And this is the one that I would recommend here. This is one of my absolute favorites. This is the Gerhard Klager Weingut. I've been here several times, and this is one of my favorite wines there. It's a Blaufränkisch. And you can see all the ratings there, the profile over there, heavy on the tannins. It's, if I had to put it, it's kind of a cross between a Cabernet Sauvignon and a Merlot, if you want to put it in French terms. And if you're putting it in Italian terms, I don't know what I compare it to, but it's something along the lines of a what do you call it? The wine from I'll remember it later. Okay, the Italian wine. Okay, and Lonnie Johnson used to say to us that nothing in Vienna ever changes. And here's something that did change. Look at what the Straßenbahn look like now. That's the Straßenbahn from Stammersdorf. You might think, oh boy, that's going to take a long time to get back. The Straßenbahn also got very fast, and they stop at Floridsdorf, where you have a choice between all sorts of new choices. The Vienna public transportation system just flowered over the years. They've added lines all the time. You can get all over the place with that Netzkarte, and there's no need to Schwarzfahr anymore. Here's hike number 2. This one I would recommend if you have only an afternoon, and I would also point out that this would be the start of the Runde Matum. And the Runde Matum is the circular hiking course that goes all the way around Vienna. That will take you, again, 5 days if you're very fast, 6 days if you go at a good pace, and 7 days if you take the long one. There are 2 of them, and I'll explain that a little bit more in a second. You start down here. The best place to go is the Heiligenstadt U-Bahn Station. You can go there, or you can go to Nussdorf on the 38, no, not 39, I think it is. You go out there on that one, and then you will get to Nussdorf, and you can walk up from there, just like Beethoven did. This was one of his favorite courses when he lived in Nussdorf. There's Leopoldsberg. Those of you will remember that. You could see it from the city all the time. And there it is up close. I have bad news for you. Leopoldsberg is now in private hands. You cannot go inside anymore. There used to be a lovely Gasthaus in here with a beautiful view of the Bisamberg. But you can still go up here, walk around the turret, the outside part, and you can see the views. Both to the north, Klosterneuburg, Bisamberg to the east, and then Vienna to the south. And that's what the Nasenweg looks like. It's quite a nice path. It was built by a Belgian prince in the late 1700s, early 1800s. And as I said, Beethoven used to walk up it all the time. There's Kahlenberg. This is the first place I ever went with Marty Planck and Tom Keene, of all people, in October 1980. Again, this is where Jan Sobieski and his army in 1683 assembled to save Austria from the Ottoman Empire. And the debate still runs over whether they attended church here on Kahlenberg or over there in Leopoldsberg, and it will run forever. There seem to be no evidence surfacing to prove that either way. That's a view from Kahlenberg. And there's a view to the other side. If you walk across the street of Kahlenberg, you will see Klosterneuburg. There's the cloister. And there's the town. And I should point out that the longer course, the Runde Matum, will go through here. So it'll take you through the back, Klosterneuburg, extensively. And that will add another 20 kilometers to that. It'll be 160 something, okay, rather than 143, which is the shorter Runde Matum. That's the one I've done 3 times, maybe 4. I can't even remember now. There's another close-up. And this is Klosterneuburg Dorf. And this is where the another famous Franz, what's his name? Mahler? No, I got the wrong name there. Anyway, if any of you can remember, he was a modern composer. He lived down here, and he also frequently hiked up here. And that's a Zweigelt. And that's also a very good wine, one that I recommend you trying. This is an Austrian professor came up with this grape in 1925, and it's a hybrid of 2 different grapes. There's a view of the Bisamberg, which I showed you before. You would go up through Langenzersdorf, up to here, Elisabethshöhe, then over here, down to Stammersdorf. That's your hike, the 3-4 hour hike that I told you from my old neighborhood. Okay, now you're on top of Hermannskogel. You're walking across from Leopoldsberg. You're going around Vienna. You can see the city down there. And you can see it's got beautiful vineyards. It was true, that fact that I showed you earlier about Vienna having the most hectares of vineyards among metropoles in the world. And this is the Habsburg-Warte. This was built in 1889, and this was built again as a tribute to the jubileum they had in that year, and it served as a radio tower for a long time. There's a little chapel in there, and there's a picnic bench. If you've brought your lunch, it's a great place to stop and eat for half an hour. It's usually not crowded on weekdays, and this is a great Gasthaus. You will find another hour along the way. Häusl am Rhein, and if you go down the hill, you'll go to Neuwaldeck or Neustift am Walde. You can return to both from here. I will tell you the views are superb from the smoking section. The non-smoking section is in the back. Willkommen in Wien zurück. Welcome back to Vienna. It is the only place in the world I know where they torment the non-smokers. Okay, and there's another shot of the Wienerwald. I'm going to show you down here. This is Baden and Bad Vöslau. And here you can get off at either station to do what I consider to be the best hike if you've got an entire day. You will need 7 hours for this. By the way, the Runde Matum, you would go around like this, through here, down to Purkersdorf. Sorry, you would come down here, Purkersdorf, across Mödling. Then you would go over here through some suburban areas, but it's actually quite nice and quite clever how they made the path weave through the 12th district, which I never visited when I was in Vienna. I doubt any of you did. It's the one district that nobody ever gets to. Then it goes to the Lobau on the other side of the Danube. And the Lobau is a large nature preserve, and you walk through that, which is beautiful. Then you wind around the new suburbs of the 22nd, 21st district, and you will end up in the Bisamberg. So if you do the full Runde Matum all the way around the city, you will end up there. Okay, this is what you're looking down on Neustift am Walde from the Rhone. And here's Purkersdorf. It's a grainy shot. Sorry, I ripped it off the internet because I didn't have one. Purkersdorf is the unofficial capital city of the Vienna Woods. There are good hikes from here. If you go out to Purkersdorf on the Schnellbahn or the not-so-Schnellbahn, you can take a hike to Schüffelstein. That's named for Josef Stoffel in his honor. That's quite a nice hike. It's about an hour. And you can also go in the other direction to Greifenstein, which I will explain at the end. Here's Mauerbach. It's just before Purkersdorf, and it's got a lot of good Gasthauses. I'll skip the story on tipping because it takes too long. So anyway, down we go to Hellenenthal. And this is from Bad Vöslau. This would be the Sosa Lindkogel. And you can see that the views to the south are beautiful. And when you go to this hike, if you get off in Baden, what you do is aim for this aqueduct, go through the town. The station is on the eastern outskirts of the city. You walk through the town and you go all the way to the aqueduct, and then eventually you'll see the red sign. Look for the river Schwekat, which again lent its name to two things. One, the airport, which used to be a sleepy little airport. Now it's a busy, bustling hub, international hub, and I mean really busy. And the Schweckater beer, which I told you about before, which I always drink one when I go back. It's getting hard to find nowadays, not because it's rare and good, but because it's such a crummy beer and there are much better beers. Okay, there's the Schwekat River. And then you will want to take a slight detour, and it's not really a detour at all. You go to Rauchenstein and you climb these ruins. They will say you're not allowed to go in. Walk 100 meters further, and there's a sign that says enter at your own risk. Go with the second one. There are always people in it. People ignore the stay out sign. And this is what it looks like inside. It's an old castle that used to defend against the Turks. And it's a great place to stop on the top and have, oh, there's me. And that's where I was going to say, stop on the top turret and have lunch there. That's a view of Baden to the east. And here are some views to the west, the hills of the Vienna Woods. As you can see, they're beautiful. You could walk for days and days. And I put a map up here for you. This was made by a friend of mine. It's very well made. I couldn't make a map myself. There's Bad Vuslau down here. You'll remember Vuslau, the water you drank, the mineral water. It comes from here. And there's the Baden Aqueduct. And over here is the Beethovenstein, which we're going to see soon. So you go hiking off for another hour and you will come in this direction, by the way. You will go off in here and you will come to the Beethovenstein, which is apparently where Beethoven used to rest. By the way, his nephew tried to commit suicide in the turret of Rauhenstein, but he failed. He shot himself in the head. It didn't work. And then Beethoven got him a cushy position in the army after that. This is what the Beethovenstein looks like. And there's a bench at the bottom. After the Beethovenstein, you have your only long, I won't call it hard, but it's a long walk up. And that's what you're going to. You can see Vienna in the background. And that's me hiking up this long trail. That's with Al. Al took this picture. This is going up to the Hoher Lindkogel. The Hohe Lindkogel has a treat waiting for you at the end, the Eisernes Tor, which is a great Gasthaus. You can get an Otterkringer from Fass here. You can also get great cakes and great food. And it's a great stopping point with beautiful views of the southern part of Lower Austria. Then you head down. And by the way, I just wanted to show you on this map just how big the Vienna Woods right here. This is all that map I showed you, the Vienna Woods. As part of the country, that's quite big, isn't it? It's huge. Okay, and this is going now north from Bisamberg. Do you remember I showed you a picture from the top of Elisabethshöhe, a castle called Kreuzenstein? That's Kreuzenstein. It was cobbled together from a number of different castles in the late 1800s. So it's neo-Gothic, essentially. And you can take a tour of this castle. I went there with my daughter, and it was very funny because in Japan, when you ask people, do you speak English? They usually say no, even if they speak very well. And this guy, and I asked him, could you speak English? Because my daughter doesn't speak German. And he said, well, I can speak English, but it'd be better if I spoke in German and you translated. He had heard only one sentence from me. And he decided I was going to be the translator for this tour. It's a nice tour. When you get out, you go across the back parking lot. By the way, we're the only ones on the tour. And I think that happens a lot here. And not a lot of people come here for tours. And you go to the back of the parking lot, you find a red trail, and you will stay on that. You will go past some farms, and then you'll go up and up hills, beautiful vistas, and then into some deep woods, and you come out to this place, the Goldenes Brundel, which would be also a great place to have lunch. It's always closed every time I've been there. The one time it was open, the guy looked at my feet, my muddy feet, and said, you have a 2.5-hour wait. I think he was once an IES student, always an IES student. I was turned away. So I've never eaten here, but it should be very good. It was packed the day I got in. You keep going through the woods on the HZ Rund, I can't remember what the rest of the name was for that hiking trail, but you'll find it. It's a green trail. You hike all the way to the top to Mikkelsberg, and up there you'll see this little chapel. And I wish I were a camera buff. I would have taken loads of pictures. You can see all the way to the Czech border, the barbed wire there. I'm joking. There's no more barbed wire there. There are no guards there. Actually, this is a sidebar, but when I rode my friend's bicycle to Bratislava one day, I got there in 3 hours. And when I got to the border, I got off and I asked, is there anywhere to show my passport? And he said, no, but you can buy a beer here. So I drank a Czech beer, 1 foot in Austria, 1 foot in Slovakia. And you can come back, and you should take if you do that, it's a great day trip. You can also go to Hainburg, which is a castle on the Danube just before the border, the Slovakian-Hungarian border. And you should come back and take the Schnellbahn back, because it's a lot cheaper than taking an international train from Bratislava. You have to pay a lot more, and you have to store your bike properly, whereas with the Schnellbahn, you can just carry it in anytime. Okay, this is going down to Leitzersdorf when you're from Michelberg, and you're still an hour away from Stockerau, and it will always look close, but it's not. You just walk through fields, and then you come to downtown Stockerau, which is quite a nice town with a lot of nice little inns and Gasthäuser. So it's a great place to eat. There's a station, and moving along Greifenstein, which is on the Danube to the north. And I would recommend going here. You can't go in this castle, but right down from here, there are two Schnellbahnstationen, and you can choose either one. They're equidistant. And this hike, you should start from Perkersdorf. If you've got a day, it'll take you about 6-7 hours. You can pass through Kierling if you want, which is where Franz Kafka spent his last days. And apparently he walked in these woods all the time. And you can also start from Klosterneuburg or from Leopoldsberg. It'll be a bit shorter, 4 or 5 hours if you do that. A lot of up and down, a lot of deep woods. This is a stunning hike. It's less traveled, I think, than a lot of the other Vienna Woods hikes. I will give you one more tip. If you go down to Mannersdorf, you will have to take a train and a bus to get here. You can take this hiking course and go over to Purbach, which is on Neuziedelsee. That's the big lake, if any of you ever went there, down in Burgenland. And you pass through area like this, over hills, through vineyards. It's a lovely hike. And at the end, there's great wine to drink here. I actually arrived here on Christmas Day and one year, and I wound up in a restaurant, not alone either. There were quite a few other people. It was a little bit like that movie, The Santa Claus, where all the guys who burned the turkeys went to Denny's for dinner. And I went through their wine menu. It was wonderful, and the food was great. Okay, those are all the slides I have. So it's now time to go over to you. Any questions you have? I whipped through that as fast as I could so that I would stick to my 35-40 minutes. I know it was fast, but, and by the way, I invite any of you to email me directly if you want, and I can give you any tips on hikes. And I would say that if you're wondering how many times I've been back to Vienna, I'm going to say more than 35 or 40. I think I went there almost every year since I was an assistant, from 88 on until 2019. I keep good friends with all the guys I played basketball with. One of them actually lives on Magdalena Hofstrasse, which is kind of a kick because I stayed at his house several times, looking right at the Bisamberg, and he did very well for himself. Oh, I see John Sims is here. Okay. Hi, John. And anyway, okay, over to you. Any questions you have? Anything at all?
So we just ask people to put their questions in the Q&A or the chat. Oh, so Gisela Bowerly asks if you could show the map outlining the Vienna Woods again, if you could.
Yeah, sure,
screen share
absolutely.
that map so that.
Well, I say absolutely. I will try. Can you see it? Or do I have to go back to slideshow again?
I think you have to go back to share screen in your slideshow.
You can't see this then?
Not yet.
Alala. Or arama, as they say in Japanese.
And while you're looking for it, Tom asks you, how many total miles have you walked in the woods over the years?
Look, I couldn't even say because Tom's in Wisconsin, and I have hiked, I think, every trail in Wisconsin with my brother. We're big hikers. We go down to the Kettle Moraine all the time. We've hiked Door County all over. I will say one thing. I'm not a kind of guy who's going to hike the Himalayas. I don't go to the Rocky Mountains. I don't go to very difficult mountains. I like kind of hilly-like mountains. I'm that kind of walker. So if any of you are thinking, oh, yeah, great, Bob talked about all these hikes, but I could never do these, you know, it'll kill me. It won't kill you. Actually, can you see that? Or no?
Are you doing share screen? And then
I don't think I am. Okay, hold on. Let me get back.
Click on share screen and then. And Sally is asking whether there's a written itinerary of some of your hikes. And I believe you have provided some of your hikes in writing.
My IES article. That's the only record of it.
article. So we can share that with everybody who registered for this
Yeah, you
program.
guys are the bearers of my entire history of the Vienna Woods.
Oh, here, wait a minute. Somebody has shared the link to the favorite. The
Hold
top
on, I'm trying to get
6 hikes. So there's 2 bonus hikes in what you had put in writing.
Yes, there are more hikes, and I could give you, if you tell me what your itinerary is. Can you see it now?
Yes, but click on that other little icon
yeah.
with the arrow, so that makes it bigger.
You guys write to me about advice about the Vienna Woods, but don't write to me for computer advice, obviously. Okay, there you go. That's the Vienna Woods. And remember, up here, Leopoldsberg, where the pointer is, and you're going all the way over here, you'll have towns like Meyerling is actually in there. I've never been to Meyerling. I would love to get there someday. And I will tell you about one walk I did that might interest you. Is one day I started at Perkersdorf, and I walked all the way to Baden just because I saw the signs to Baden, and I thought, that can't be possible. How could anyone walk to Baden? Then I just started walking, and believe it or not, I got there in 9 hours. I was training for a basketball tournament. It was 2011. It was an over 40s basketball tournament. A lot of ringers. There were a lot of guys in their 20s, by the way, in this tournament. It was in Munich, and my team got together, and my team it was kind of like, if the Beatles got together for a concert now, and Ringo was the only one who showed up with 3 ringers. It was like that. We had 3 members of my original basketball team and then 5 other guys, but I trained for it in the Vienna Woods. So I walked all the way to Baden that day, and it was a beautiful walk. I would recommend that. It was a long walk. It took me about 9 hours from Perkersdorf all the way to Baden, but it was a great walk, and I'd recommend that. If you're looking for a really mammoth walk, a real challenge. Okay, should I click on to Q&A then?
We have another question from Phil Burke saying, do the Vienna Stud Wanderweg, the city walking paths, overlap with the Vienna Woods hikes?
They
Phil
do.
says he has walked those in the past.
Yeah, and this is going to be, it sometimes gets confusing. And a lot of times they'll put up signs saying they're reworking sections and you're not allowed to walk on them. So you'll have detours. And again, it can get confusing. That's why you want to have the compass map. And again, I'm going to say a lot of times ignore the signs when they say stay out. You'll walk and there'll be nothing going on there. They'll have like a bulldozer off to the right a couple 100 meters and nobody's touched it for months. But they'll still have a sign up saying it's dangerous, stay out, and you can still walk most of those. I would go ahead and take a chance, and somebody finds you and says something to you, you just go with, oh, no, I don't speak any German, I'm a tourist here. And they'll probably say, oh, in that case, go back, and might buy you a beer too.
So we have another question from Jane, who says she loves taking the Strassenbahn to Grinzing. Are there hikes that begin in Grinzing and
Absolutely. You can take that hike right up through the vineyards. It'll go right up to Leopoldsberg or Kahlenberg. It's a really beautiful walk, actually, because it weaves right between the vineyards, and you'll hit up the Kahlenberg Dorf, and then you'll Franz Lehar, that was the guy I was thinking about before, the composer, by the way, who used to live in Kahlenbergsdorf. Jane's not the one who was there in 1980-81, is she?
Jane, I do. Ponterado is Jane's name. I don't know.
No idea. Okay, just curious.
Okay, no, she was there fall of '84 is what she says.
Oh, okay. When I was the assistant. Okay. Anything else?
So Oliver Campbell says, I remember going to a Heuriger north of Vienna, but the map shows the woods from northwest and south. How large is it in kilometers?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, I remember, Oliver, good to hear from you again. I saw you at the reunion. Would you remember if you went, we might have gone to the same place. That was in Neustift am Balde, I think. It was an IES sponsored event. I think Lonnie took us there, right? And it was in Neustift am Balde. That was a stunning Hortiger, and I always wanted to go back. I could never find it. I have looked for it, by the way, but I never did find it again. So I know what you're talking about. Um, yeah, but there are good ones all over the place. And I would recommend next time go to Bisamberg because you'll find some really old, authentic ones in the northern vineyards and the woods above Bisamberg, and they're lovely. And of course, if you go over the other side, you'll find loads of them. Try Stammersdorf too, because again, it's full of little Weingut and Hortiger. You go all the way up there, the left and right side. They're all over the place. So yeah, just start going.
Another question from Marty Plank. Have you spent the night at any of the hostels or hotels, I assume, in the area?
Yeah, I have, as a matter of fact. But you know what? I always stay at the Hotel Krappel. That's my friend Peter Krappel, who used to do the physical workout program 84-85 for IES. He was the instructor. And he was also my basketball partner. I usually stay at his house. I have stayed in several hotels. And they've always been good. I've stayed around the city center, though. And what I recommend doing is, I probably didn't mention this in the talk, is like when you do the Runde Matum, do a section, then take a bus back to one of the appendages, like one of the subways or one of the Schnellbahn lines, then come back to your hotel, then go back to the same point in the morning and start from there. That's what I always do. I stay in the city and I go back out. Because you would have to estimate when you're going to arrive at some of these inns or hotels. Yeah, and that's about all I can say on that. But again, all of the hotels I've stayed at, usually in the you remember Vienna was in concentric circles, first district surrounded by the 1 to 9, and I stay in the second ring of hotels if I do stay in one. But usually I'm with an old buddy. And by the way, if any of you do go over, I'll put you in touch with him. He'd be more than happy to show you the ropes. But he always laughs and says, this guy walks around the Wienerwald all the time. These guys never go. It's funny you say the grass is greener. These guys never go hiking in the Vienna woods. And he always says, if you need a tour of Vienna, ask Bobby. He always, so, that's kind of how it goes. I'd ask him for a tour of New York City, I think, too, in reverse.
So another question is, do you think that wearing a bear warning bell is necessary there? Are there any problems with bears? Okay.
Not necessarily. Like I said, I think the bears are long gone. And I don't know, there could have, maybe somebody's read something I haven't, and bears have either, encroached in the Vienna woods in recent years, but I've never heard of that. And the other thing that I would add is that I see so many hikers in Vienna. You remember, like when you walk and you get tired of saying Grüß Gott to everybody. And by the way, most people don't say Grüß Gott anymore. It seems like the Beatles say, God has died, or whatever that line was. They don't use that greeting anymore. A lot of them will say hello or grüß dich now. It's changed a bit. So, but I still stick with Grüß Gott because it was the one you'd have to say it 1,000 times as you pass people. But you do see a lot of people in the woods. So I think a bear would run away, almost any day of the year, unless you're going in the dead of winter. I've often hiked in the snow in the Wienerwald. And I love hiking in the snow because, like most places in the world, the snow repels people. And when you go there, it'll be all yours, and you can hike through the woods. Snowshoes recommended, and just get a cheap pair and bring them with you. And it's lovely hiking in the winter there in the snow. I can't tell you, again, emphatically enough how beautiful it is hiking in the wintry woods.
So this is from your old roommate, Tom, and I think it's a little tongue in cheek. He says, if I use Google to plan a trip to the Wienerwald, is there a chance I'll just end up in a lousy chicken restaurant?
Well, I wouldn't, Google might have some good stuff. Again, remember, I'm a guy who seldom goes on the computer. I rarely use the internet. I've never had a cell phone in my life. So I'm not a guy to talk to about that. I get out my old paper maps and I plan them out. And I did forget to mention one hike, Wolkersdorf. That's another town you can go up to. It's a little bit, it's about, I'm going to say 20 kilometers past the Bisamberg. You can take a Schnellbahn out there, and if you get out there, there's a beautiful walk over to a place called Großschwabach, and that's a nice town too. And it's just, again, it's not really the Wienerwald, but it's another great hike. It's on the compass map, and that's how I found it. So I've done so many of those hikes. I just about every one of them. I mean, there's almost nothing I haven't done, because again, I'm usually going over there to eat a lot. As you will all remember, I'll eat huge breakfast, huge lunch. We saw the breakfast and the lunch and the dinner. And to do that, I feel like I have to put in 6-7 hours on a trail every day. So I usually come back the same weight as when I left, or a little heavier. That's how much food and beer and wine I put away.
So Gisela Bowerly is asking, how did you take the pictures that you used in the slideshow here today?
Al took them all. And Al is a friend I met on my last, when I graduated from the University of Denver. I transferred planes in Chicago. He got on, he had graduated from, he was still in Northwestern, but we rode back together to Kennedy Airport, and his father gave me a ride home, which was great because I lived in New Jersey, and I used to take a bus home all the time, and it was not easy, or a train, get my stiletto out and defend myself in the subways of New York. And he gave me a ride home, and then we became fast friends. And he's traveled with me. He's a TV producer now, and he traveled with me to Vienna. He'll, at the drop of a hat, he'll show up somewhere. He often visits me in Japan too. By the way, if any of you are interested in, because I mean, I love talking about this. And when I tell Peter that I did this lecture, he's going to tell all the members of the basketball team, and they will all crack up. They will say, why would anybody want to listen to a lecture about the Vienna woods? It's amazing the reaction you get from the locals. So again, I thank all of you for coming. And again, I invite you all to contact me. And if you have more questions, or if you are planning a trip seriously, and I will help you as much as I can, put you in touch with people who can help you.
And we did put Bob's email address in the chat. So as we're wrapping up here, go ahead and grab that if you would like to reach out to him. I'd just like to give a quick update about what's going on at IES Abroad, because for the first time in over a year, we had students in our London and Barcelona programs, just a handful, about 30 in each program, but that was the official reopening of study abroad. And we are looking forward to having 92 students in Vienna this fall. So let's give a hip, hip hooray for that. They are really looking forward to welcoming students across Europe in all of our programs this fall. We'll be at probably about 50% of our usual capacity, but that's extremely exciting after such a long year without students anywhere. So we thank you all for coming today. We thank you. I know so many of you support our scholarship program, and please know that students going this fall and next year will need scholarship money. And so please think about making a gift now, or certainly at year end when you do your regular giving to support IES. We really appreciate that. So with that, thank you, Tom, for introducing Bob, and Bob, thank you again for doing this marvelous presentation.